Okay, guys, continuing on. I think we're actually on part 50 of the CD collection, which absolutely blows my mind, and we're still in the E section. I appreciate you guys following along and continuing on with this. As long as you keep watching, I'm going to keep on marching through the CD collection. Bear with me today. I have a horrible headache, but I like keeping these uploaded on Sundays, so I'm going to go ahead and record this one today so I can have it ready to go and upload it on Sunday. Just picking up where we left off, we have embryonic devourment with fear of reality exceeds fantasy. Obviously, you've got some brutal death metal here. Technical brutal death metal out of California. I believe this is their debut full length. This one is actually really solid. I do enjoy this one quite a bit. Was released on Deep Send Records. Just killer stuff there. Then we have Embryonic Devourment with Reptilian Agenda. I believe this is their third full length. I do not have their sophomore release. I like this one okay. It's still pretty solid. I do like that debut a bit more. They actually released an album, I think back in February of this year, that I don't know if they have physicals for it yet or not. But what I heard of that release that they put out this year, it was pretty solid as well. As you can see, this one has the used sticker right there on the front cover. I never changed the case, but it's a pretty decent slab of brutal death metal. Changing gears completely, this is a band that Wyatt made fairly popular with a video, and they probably never would have garnered anywhere near that amount of attention without his little shout out there. This is emit, with a spectra music of an antiquary. Ah, man, I don't even know how to go about explaining this. I mean, if you've seen his black metal iceberg video, you already have heard him talk about some of the earlier emit releases. This one doesn't have nearly as much of the black metal elements. There's not a there's so much ambience and like dark ambience going on in the entirety of his releases, but uh, especially in this one, the black metal elements are very few and far between if they're there at all. This is just a very dark, introspective a piece. This is not something that I'm going to pull off the shelf and listen to every day. This is something that I definitely have to be just in a certain mental space to listen to. But a very introspective type listen. It's very different. It can be a bit unnerving, but it's not bad. It's just I don't think I can do that one justice. I just don't have the smarts and vernacular to give that one the fair shake that it deserves. But it is a moving piece. It's just something that it's just a very dark passage of music. Next up, we have a compilation that was in an order that I did through stabbyhamlet.com. This is the Empathica Radio Hell to the Underground Volume 1 compilation. Some pretty decent stuff on here. Gravehopper has some tracks on here, or has a track on here. There's some bands that I had never heard of on here. I did find some new stuff on here as well. Autumn Silence, that was one that a band that I never heard of. Their track, The Poison Hunt, I enjoyed that one a little bit as well. It's at 19 tracks, so I mean, I'll hold that up. I don't know if my camera's focusing where you can kind of read some of that stuff if you wanted to pause it and check it out. The camera has not been cooperating too much today. And then there's the actual disc, as you can see. It has the stabbyhamlet.com little logo there, as well as the Soul Grinder zine. Soul Grinder has their hand in a ton of killer compilations. So when I see that little Soul Grinder zine logo on a compilation, I know I'm in for some good stuff. I know I should wait till after the video to put this back in the plastic, but I have a headache, and after the video, I'm probably not going to feel like fooling with it. Moving on, a band, super influential band, regardless of how you personally feel about some of the members. We have Emperor with the In the Night Side Eclipse. I should have known that. This was originally released in 1994. This is the reissue. This one was remastered and reissued in it's a reissue, but this reissue was out in 1999, so even the reissue is over 20 years old here. Uh, what can I say? I mean, I can't say anything about this album that has not already been mentioned before. I mean, this is a groundbreaking album. Definitely changed the landscape of black metal, especially symphonic black metal. It's just one of the more influential albums and bands in that entire scene. Follow that up with probably, I mean, this was a monumental album, but I do not feel it's their best release. Follow that up with what I find is their the peak of their existence. This is Anthems to the Welcome at Dusk by Emperor. Amazing release. I mean, about as perfect of a symphonic black metal album as you're going to ever find. I love this album. Love everything about this album. It almost plays like a concept album with the lyrics just fitting in perfectly. The artwork, the lyrics, the music, everything just goes so seamlessly together. Just I don't know. This is about, as I said, about as perfect of a symphonic black metal album as I could ever piece together. And then surprisingly, neither one of those albums were the albums that got me into Emperor to begin with. The one that got me into them was probably their weakest album. And I remember working at a gas station in high school, and there was a Hastings that was located right behind the gas station. And sometimes when I got off work, Hastings stayed open very late, so I could run back there and find some new music and have something to listen to that night after work. And that's where I picked this one up. I had not really dived into black metal very much at all. This was around 99, 2000. I was still, I had like moved on from being head over heels in like new metal into the point where death metal and doom metal had sunk their claws into me completely. And that's what I was into at the time, and I still am. I think those are still my two major loves as far as extreme music goes. And I had barely just started dipping my toes into some black metal. You had stuff like Satyricon, Emperor, obviously, Demu Borgir, Cradle of Filth was another one. Being a record store in the South, there wasn't a ton of black metal available at that time. You just had to go with the things that were readily available, what was fairly big, and what they were selling. I saw this one on sale there. This is Non Equilibrium. I don't know if you call it non equilibrium or ninth equal. I still to this day don't know. But I saw this one on sale, and I was kind of intrigued by the cover on it. I just, as I was saying, started getting into Demu. Cradle of Filth was a big one at the time, and Satyricon. And I saw this. I was like, you know what? I'll try some black metal tonight. I want to listen to something a little bit different. I wish I still had the original case that this came in because it still had the hype sticker on the front. But I grabbed this after work, and it was completely different than the things that I was into at the time. But I dug this, and when you get into a band with their worst album and you like it, it's only going up from there. I mean, that the fact that this was probably their weakest release, and I did enjoy this, just made going back and listening to their other material that much better. Because Anthems to the Welcome at Dusk, when I first listened to that album, I was completely blown away, and to this day, it still kind of blows me away when I listen to it. And then I have their fourth and final full length, Prometheus, The Discipline of Fire and Demise. Another solid release. This may be this one and the debut kind of rank right there together for me. As far I don't for sure know which one of those two that I like better. Maybe the debut, just for the simple fact of how it changed, the way that it changed the landscape of black metal, just the history behind that album. But I do enjoy this one as well. So moving on, we have some ambient industrial stuff that has black metal vocals. That's the only way I really know how to describe this one. This is Empire Auriga with Auriga Dying or Auriga Dying. Very interesting stuff here. If you're into industrial type music, I think Metal Archives has it listed as black metal slash industrial. The only real thing that you're going to find as far as black metal influence in this, for the most part, is just the vocals. It's mainly industrial music mixed with ambience, and then there are some black metal vocals scattered in throughout. But it is a very intriguing release. I did like this one quite a bit. I think it's very underrated and overlooked. And then the follow up to that, I picked that up as well. This is Ascending the Solar Throne, and more just kind of atmospheric, ambient, industrial type stuff with just masked under those black metal vocals. But this is another one of those projects that can be a bit unnerving. That you have to be in a particular type mood to listen to. But I do enjoy both of these albums quite a bit. I think those were the only two full lengths that project put out. Next up, we have a kind of thrashy. It has some black and thrash, and some death metal stuff going on in this as well. But the cover art on this is very funny to me. This is Empire's Darkness with Poser's Annihilator, and yeah, that for some reason that artwork just is hilarious to me. This is a band out of Mexico. I think this is the only full length release that they ever released. It's pretty good. The music on this, I mean, it's fun. It's kind of tongue in cheek a little bit, but the only real uh, turn off for me sometimes is the vocals, and it's just those thrashy, the enunciation behind some of those over the top kind of thrashy stuff kind of irks me. But other than that, it is a pretty solid release. Definitely worthy of a spot on the collection shelf. Next up, we have a band out of Belgium. This is the only release that I own from this band. It is actually the only one that I've listened to, and I did enjoy this, but it's one of those albums that was completely different than all of their other material, so it was a very polarizing release when it was released. This is Emptiness, and I believe this is self-titled. I believe this band was like an extreme metal band. Leading up to this, yeah, I think they were like black metal. They had a lot of black metal and death metal influence going on in their material. This has some like post-punk. This has some atmospherics going on. I don't know. I enjoyed this. I got this in a Season of Mist grab bag quite some time ago, and this one is entitled "Not for Music." It's not self-titled. It just didn't have the title on the spine or the front of the case. So, but I did enjoy this surprisingly. But like looking at trying to peg this into like a genre is very hard to do. But I found this to be quite enjoyable. I may, if I ever went back and listened to their other material, I'd probably, just for the fact that I'm more familiarized with this, probably would like that more than some of the more extreme stuff at this point. Next up, we have a band out of Russia, black metal band. This is Depressive black metal. This is Emptiness Soul, and this is I think their second full length, which was entitled Without You. This is definitely a repress because the original press, I think all of the album titles and tracks and everything were in Russian. This one's okay. It's not my favorite release from Emptiness Soul. There was one release of theirs that I'll show next that I really enjoyed. And everything else that I've listened to from the band just hasn't lived up to the album that I'm going to show next. This was released through Metallic Media and Satanith Records, along with a couple of other labels on the back as well. Has some bonus tracks. I think has like some demo tracks and live tracks tagged on to the end of this as well. But I mean, it's not bad. It's just not my favorite release from them. And then we have Emptiness Soul with 3 Days. This was the album that got me into this band, and I really do enjoy this one. I just haven't enjoyed anything else from them as much as this since hearing it. So it's just more depressive. Has some atmospherics going on. But I'm always a sucker, it seems like, for Russian black metal. Then we have Imperium. This is the release of theirs that came out last year, entitled Uber den Sternen. I think Uber den Sternen. Yeah, obviously, they're not. It's not in English. This is a band that started out as, I think, a folky black metal band. This is the only release of theirs that I've ever really spent any time with, and this is a neo folk album. I believe their previous, at least album before this, and maybe the one before that, are all strictly neo folk. But this is phenomenal. I absolutely love this release. Had I spent more time with it last year, it probably would have been on my end of the year list because it is phenomenal. I love everything about this. I do want to check out some of their more extreme stuff. I will get around to that at some point, but very glad to have this one in the collection. When the mood hits me for something like this is an absolutely perfect listen for something along those lines. Then we have some prog rock. This is an album that I picked up in a used bin at one point. It was very cheap, and it sounds like, for me personally, something that you would pick up out of a used bin very cheap. This is Enchant with Tug of War. I should have known what I was getting into just looking at that. Um, it has a very Dream Theater-esque vibe going on just from the artwork. I'm not the as you guys know by now, I'm not the biggest prog person anyway. Still came intact with the slipcase, but it's kind of, it's very at least this I could say is very melodic. It does have it's not progressive just for the simple fact of being progressive, but I mean it could be enjoyable. It's just, I don't know. Stuff like this isn't really just something that I want to sink my teeth into, so it kind of just sits on the shelf at this point. Next up, we have Mark G with the Seas Band. This is Enchantment with Dance to Marble Naked. I should have known that. This was the Transcending Records reissue that came out in 2020. Original album came out back in 1994. This is just some solid death doom. I mean, I'm excited about their new album coming out later this year. They've been teasing it for a while, and I am super excited for that one to come out and to get my hands on that one. So, killer stuff there from Enchantment. I mean, if you're watching this video, I'm sure you're already watching Mark's channel as well, and you are familiar with his project, and you know that that's some killer stuff there. Going from some Death Doom, we'll move right into some Doomy Death. We have Encoffination with Oh Hell Shining in Thy Whited Sepulchres. This one is pretty good. This album, I think, is their sophomore release. It features Justin Stubbs. He was doing YouTube there for a while. I'm not sure if he's still uploading regularly or not. If he is, I have missed the last few of his videos because I haven't seen an upload from him in some time. But this is so there's some definite incantation worship going on in this. It's like take incantation and slow it down. That's the only way I know to put it, but it is some killer stuff here. I do enjoy this. I know that there were several people kind of riding the fence on this release, and I don't get that. This was the one that originally got me into Encoffination. It's just some slow, dark, heavy stuff, and I do dig it. And then we have the follow-up to that entitled 3, Hear Me, O Death. This is probably my favorite release from them. This one is wild. I love this. Just that slow, methodical, doomy death metal. It's borderline scary stuff at times, but I do love this. And then I have the follow-up to that one, their 4th release, We Proclaim Your Death, O Lord. And I mean, it's just more of that slow, doomy death metal. I'm trying to straighten that disc out. I think they released a split. They released some material on a split earlier this year. I don't know if they have a full length coming out or not. It seems like one of the is either Everlasting Spew or Transcending Obscurity records. It seems like has been pushing in Confination pretty hard as of late. So I don't know if they got some new material coming out. I need to go check that out and see what that's all about. Next up, we have some folk metal out of the Netherlands. I don't know if there's Vikings in the Netherlands, but if there are, it's kind of it has that Viking metal feel going on in these as well. This is Encorian with Facing History and Ourselves. Definite pagan vibes going on in that, as you just from the themes. Sorry, my brain hurts and it's just not working the way I want it to today. Very good stuff here. I do enjoy this one. They only put out 2 full lengths. This is the debut. I like this one okay, but the follow up to this is the one that really just kind of gets me into this band, and that was entitled Our Pagan Hearts Were Born. This is the one that I picked. I actually picked this one up first, and then I backtracked and picked up the debut. I love this album. Just folky goodness. Has some death metal feels going on in it as well, but it just I don't know. I hate the genre tag Viking metal, but it just has that feel for me. Next up, this is one that I got in a Relapse Records grab bag way back when Relapse grab bags, when you found new stuff in Relapse uh, Records grab bags that was actually good. This is The End with Elementary. This is technical metalcore out of Canada, and I know that may sound horrible to some of you, but this is an awesome release. I dig this one quite a bit. I have not listened to this one in quite some time. Another reason I like doing these videos, I know you guys like seeing these videos because I dig up some stuff like this. Because I mean, this came out I think 2009 maybe. I haven't thought about this album in forever. Now that it's back on my brain and not just sitting on the shelf, I will probably revisit this one and listen to it here in the very near future. And that's why I like these videos. It's kind of like clearing the dust off of some of these releases and kind of bringing them back out into the spotlight where they deserve. Next up, we have a death metal release. I got this in a grab bag, maybe a Grind State Records grab bag at one point. It's kind of run of the mill death metal. This is End Time Illusion with So Below. This came out, I think, this has been out since 2005, so definitely dated. I don't remember a ton about it, if I'm going to be honest. It just kind of felt like just straightforward run of the mill death metal. I remember enjoying it for what it was. It just wasn't something that I was going to find myself just returning to over and over, and I have not. But maybe I'll get that kind of hair up my on my keister to pull this off the shelf and revisit it and be able to speak a little bit more. Just when you have a collection like this, things kind of get overlooked sometimes. Next up, this is a killer death metal band out of Germany, I believe, and I think this is the only full length that they ever put out. This is Demacy with Epitome of Decadence. This was a joint release between Severed Records and Rotten Rolex. It is brutal death metal, nastiness, but I dug this one quite a bit. I have not listened to it in far too long. A bit of a crime that I have not listened to it in as long as I have. As I said just a second ago, is why I like doing these videos, because we're at a section where I'm on the bottom of the CD shelf, so a lot of this stuff kind of gets neglected sometimes, just as this release has as well. Changing gears a little bit, this is some black metal. I believe this band is out of Norway as well. This is Endesma with Erotic Necrosis. This came out back I think in 2012 or 2011 on Agonia Records, I think is how you pronounce that. Uh, very depraved. I mean, you can see the depravity just in the artwork and the album title. Despite that, the melodies are there. It kind of has that look like it would be very raw, primal black metal. It's not. There are a few little instances of that in there, but the melodies are there. The I, the vocals on this I do enjoy. It's a killer release. It's the only. It's definitely my favorite Endesma release that I've heard. It's the only one that I've sought out to get my hands on a copy. It featured. Um, I'm trying to remember his name now. He was in the band Ergahal, or I can't pronounce that one either. Um, I probably should have just let it fly, but it was what the guitarist. It was the last album I think that he was a part of in any of his projects before he passed, and his presence is definitely missed. I think in some of the future material from this band, but I don't know. I do dig this one quite a bit. I'll have to, I guess, get on Metal Archives at some point and refresh my memory on his name and the other projects that he was a part of. Next up, we have another band out of Canada. This is kind of Gothenburg, I guess, influenced death metal fused with deathcore. I know that kind of will turn some of you off. The first release that I'm going to show wasn't my favorite from them anyway, but this is Ending Tyranny with Perpetual Greed. Definite has that feel of back like Job for a Cowboy, deathcore, that old school MySpace deathcore feel going on, which for me, I dug some of that stuff and was a reason why I checked this band out. This album in particular, I mean, it's okay. It's not my favorite from them, but the follow up to that, Evolution of Deceit, I really dug this one. It was much later coming out than some of that other. This I think 2015 uh, is what the date says on the back. I thought it was a little bit earlier than that, but I mean it. The time frame for this sounding stuff had kind of passed when this came out, but I dug it. It felt like a throwback to that uh, early Job for a Cowboy feel, and I love that stuff. And I thought that this was a killer release here. I just love that they're able to incorporate that kind of Gothenburg sound into deathcore, and I don't know, it's just good. I know some of you will hate that, but I dug this album quite a bit. And then the last one, we have some more Death Doom. This is a band out of another band, I think, out of Canada. That was very criminally overlooked. This was the only full length that they ever put out, but it's pretty solid. And I've never heard, I don't think anyone else talk about this. This is Endless with Beauty, Tears, and the Setting Sun. I do enjoy this one quite a bit. I mean, if you're into Death Doom, you ought to check this one out because you probably have overlooked this one as well. But it is some killer stuff. It was released on Pavement Music. I don't really like promoting anything from Pavement because I'm still salty. I won a T-shirt from them on a Facebook contest back. I think it was in 2011. I mean, it's been 12 years ago now that I won that contest, but they never sent my shirt out. I never received it, so I'm still salty about that. You think I would just let it go at this point because it's been so long, but I'm still mad about that. So I don't like talking about that label too much. But this is a solid release. If you're into Death Doom, definitely check out Endless with Beauty, Tears, and the Setting Sun. That's all I've got for today. I appreciate you guys. There's about 100 to about 150 of you. Steadily keeping up with these collection updates, and that blows my mind because the videos are so long and so much material to go through. But I do appreciate it, and I will try to keep these coming on Sundays. Like I said, that way just you have something to know that it's coming every week at least. So that's all I've got for today. Stay classy, and I'll see you guys next week.